Hello, sweet soul. Welcome back. Part 3 of Narration of the Little Book of Witchcraft. This evening, we're going to look at the brief history of witchcraft. Now, make sure you've watched Part 2 because it's like put a finger down edition of signs that you might be a witch, a white witch. Popular opinion of witchcraft is still very much rooted in stories of black magic and historical events of persecution, sweet soul. Famous witch trials from history, such as the Pendle trials in the early 17th century, live long in the public's consciousness. In order to understand witchcraft and what it means to be a witch, we need to consider its origins, its connotations, both good and bad. Much of white witchcraft is rooted in the pagan practice known as Wicca. The origins of witchcraft are in no way easy to unpick, but we can begin by looking at Wicca and a timeline of witchcraft being practiced in Europe. So, what's Wicca, you ask? Well, the Little Book of Witchcraft shares with us Wicca in a nutshell. Wicca, also known as green magic, is often seen as interchangeable with the white witchcraft, but while they hold many similarities in their worship of the natural world, they are not the same thing. Wicca is a pagan religion, albeit a modern one, whereas white witchcraft is not pagan. Pagan is an old term for a country person, but in modern contexts it refers to a follower of the cycles of the seasons and the movements of the sun and moon. The word Wicca comes from the Anglo-Saxon wiki, meaning wise, and the English word witch is derived from Wicca. Wicca promotes an appreciation of nature, acknowledging the seasons, the phases of the moon, the cycles of the sun, and the rhythm of nature. Respecting all life. Its origins are pre-Christian, although much of it is received wisdom from more recent archaeological discoveries. There isn't much written evidence because the Christian church pilloried witches. The church portrayed witches as an evil, despite the majority using their skills for good and predominantly healing others. Wiccans and witches do not worship Satan or summon demons, and they do not promote cult behavior. There is no enforce. They have never sacrificed living creatures or caused harm to others or possess any desire to denounce other religions. The first Wiccans followed the teachings of Gerald Gardner, a 19th century British academic and scholar. He who revived the pagan traditions of working with nature using herbs, essence, and other natural elements for healing, sweet soul, and brought it to the public attention with a series of books. Yep, the most notable being Witchcraft Today in 1954. He also founded the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic in Boscastle, Cornwall. Many modern witches prefer to be called Wiccans to escape the negative connotations of being called a witch. But Wicca today blends well with modern holistic well-being practices such as Reiki, meditation, and aromatherapy, as well as spiritual interests such as astrology and clairvoyance. So a little bit about an angelic Wicca. Some Wiccans believe that angels help their practices. Angels are prevalent in Christian and other religious faiths, but the angels that support angelic Wicca are celestial. They're celestial beings made of love and light, and they are called upon as either guardians or mentors. Now, get comfortable because this is the timeline of witchcraft in Europe. It's a few pages long, but it's got lots of information. So, if you're using this for sleep, for information, whatever, get comfortable, embrace. If you want to stay awake, make sure that you're in a seated position with your shoulders back And ensure that you take your chin and touch it down to a line and touch it onto your chest so that you can align your spine. And at any time when you feel that you're dozing off and you don't want to, do this. If, in fact, you are using this for sleep, and I've been told I have a soothing voice, if you're not my ex-husband or my spouse, LOL. But embrace this timeline of witchcraft in Europe and embrace this chapter of narration from the Little Book of Witchcraft. The link will be in the context below, so you're able to purchase it or take a look at it. It really is worth it. All right, so 12,000 years BC, there are cave paintings in southern France, and they're from like a period of depicting a man with stag's head and a pregnant woman standing in a circle with 11 other figures. This is believed to be one of the earliest depictions of witchcraft. Experts have deduced that these images represent the man's worship of nature as gods and goddesses. The horned god had supremacy over all animals, and the pregnant woman were recognized and revered as creatures of life. It's no accident that the Christian Church redefined the horned man as the devil, thus outlawing and demonizing these witchcraft rituals as devil worship. The circa of 750 to 650 BC, in Homer's Odyssey, an enchantress called Circe turned people into pigs. Circe, 630 to 540 BC. Witchcraft is condemned in the Old Testament. Witches appear in the Bible when King Saul seeks communion with the witch of Endor. Circa 420 BC. St. Augustine of Hippo dismisses witchcraft as the error of pagans. And, page turn, and his view, witchcraft, was relatively harmless and therefore witches were free from persecution. This view continued to hold sway in the late medieval Christian church. 1208. Pope Innocent III publicly criticized those who claimed that both God and Satan had supernatural powers. Satan became feared and attack on witches increased, and they were accused of worshiping dark forces. Now, depending on your belief, sweet soul, I have one. God, a spirit of all, whatever your faith is, healed with his hands. I'm a firm believer he was one of the very first Reiki healers. I'm just going to leave that at that. And 1273. Thomas Aquinas, a Dominican monk, declared that demons existed and that they could tempt people into performing acts of evil. Those who practiced witchcraft became widely feared. 1400s. Witch trials became more prevalent across Europe. The accused were brought to trials over claims of transforming into animals, spreading evil curses and plagues, causing bad weather to ruin crops, and flying on broomsticks, among other crimes. 1484, Pope Innocent VIII ordered a full report of suspected witchcraft practices, oh my goodness, resulting in the publication of, which translates as Hammer of Witches. This document became the defensive and definitive basis for determining a witch in a trial and led to many being prosecuted and executed. The 1500s. Renaissance artists such as Albert Durer recorded images of vile crones and hooked noses, which went a long way towards influencing the classical view of witches right up until the present day. I mean, look at all those stories when we were kids. The mid-1500s to 1600s, witch trials erupted in mass across Europe. Over 150-year period, approximately 80,000 witches were executed. I have to repeat that. Witch trials erupted en masse across Europe in the mid-1500s to mid-1600s. Over 150-year period, approximately 80,000 witches were executed. The biggest concentration was in Germany, where 26,000 witches were reportedly killed. Over 80% of these were women. In 1563, the Witchcraft Act was introduced, which punished those who practices witchcraft or consulted witches. Many people sought the services of witches, be in the health concerns or clairvoyance, but the church felt compromised, denouncing witchcraft as the work of the devil. Most of witches were old women whose appearances matched Thérèse's characters, and they were also often poor. If they owned a cat, this was regarded as further evidence that they were a witch. Page turn. 1590. King James VI of Scotland, who would later become King James I of England, and his new wife were caught up in a violent storm, which their captain blamed on witchcraft. 6 witches admitted to the offense of causing the storm and were burned at the stake. The king didn't stop there, authorizing the torture and execution of suspected witches across Scotland in what became the biggest witch hunt in British history. He also wrote a book, and it was published in 1597. It's about his opposition to witchcraft and magical practices, which is believed to have directly influenced Shakespeare's Macbeth. 1606, Macbeth by William Shakespeare was performed for the first time, its famous opening showing 3 witches in a storm. When shall we 3 meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when this bottle's lost and won, indicates how widespread public interest in witchcraft was at the time. In 1612, the Pendle. These trials took place when the whole swath of Lancashire and Lancashire, England, the swaths of Lancashire, England, were reportedly suffering from the ill effects of witchcraft. No village was considered safe from dark magic. If sickness was to fall on family, they believed it was caused by a curse. If poor harvest was often deemed that this was a result of a bad wish. Early in the mid-1640s, following one from the mass witch hunts in Britain, France followed suit to conduct its own large witch hunt, and in history that had 600 arrests. There is so much information, and that is what we're going to finish with tonight, sweet soul. We will begin with tomorrow, and I'll finish these 2 entries, and we're going to begin tomorrow at 1682. But know that in 1645, East Anglia was gripped by witch fever. A man called Matthew Hopkins became Witchfinder General, and he was tasked with seeking out all forms of heresy and witchcraft. Through his deductions, they were based on witches' marks, such as a hairy wart on the large mole of the suspect's face. He also believed a witch was impervious to pain and would use a prodder with a long needle that would rather retract into the sheath when pressed against the skin, so the suspected witch would not feel anything. Another one of the tests was the swimming test, where a witch would have their thumbs tied to the opposite big toes and be thrown in the river. If they floated, they were a witch. If they drowned, they were innocent. Late 1640s. And this is the final one for this evening, sweet souls. The number of witch trials and executions dropped. This was due in part to the oncoming English Civil War and witches going into hiding. Page turn. So we will start tomorrow at 1682 from the Little Book of Witchcraft. Make sure that you check it out. This is a modern guide to becoming a white witch. Are you in need of a little magic to entice love into your life? Or perhaps you want to feel more in control of your destiny. Maybe someone you know could benefit from a good luck spell. This Little Book of Witchcraft uncovers the mysteries of this ancient art and shows you how to tap into the positive natural energies of the cosmos to release your inner power. Learn about different kinds of witchcraft and its fascinating history, its symbolism, and the basic principles of Wicca. and how to perform simple spells, affirmations, intentions to attract good luck, good energy, good love, good health, and happiness. Make sure you check out this little book. The link is in the bio below, and it's a collection, a collaborative by Andrews McMeel Publishing. And once again, it is a little book of witchcraft that I am narrating from. Thank you again, sweet soul. We will talk to you soon. And until then, stay magical, and remember, you deserve what you desire. Manifest the best.